And we are live. There's
Live.
the thumb. And if the thumb up can only mean one thing. You know what it is?
I means,
It means positive. It means good. It means we've got a good internet connection, Jenny.
well, we do so far, Daniel. Let's don't talk about it.
No glitches. No
so
glitches.
far, we don't talk about internet connection.
It's the small things in life, right?
It is. Now I think that you kind of have a better understanding of my, you know how like I get so worked up about the glitch.
Yes. I've never experienced those bad connections. So the internet situation hopefully is solved.
Yeah, it's only when, like I told you, when we have something interacting, like we have a guest that just popped on in the background.
Yeah, we've got two guests today. I'm so excited.
So I'm just saying, Daniel, you better stay.
Oh yeah, no, I'm going to stay here. If something was to happen to me, I want the show to go on. Winny is going to handle it from here on out. The show must go on. The show must go on. Welcome everybody, Winny and the Average Dude. It's our weekly LinkedIn live show where we talk to all sorts of fantastic people. Sometimes we talk to two. Garrett, thank you for that smiley face. That smiley face means positive. It means thumbs up. It means
thumbs up. Yeah.
We're ready to rock and roll. A lot's been going on, a lot of cool things, a lot of things I want to talk about.
Yeah.
But before I get into those, Winny.
What?
Tell me something. Tell me something about your life.
Well, you remember a few weeks ago I told you I fell and I'm not sure if I broke a rib or not. I don't know if you remember that, but I fell.
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah. You fell on the sink.
Yeah, it still hurts. So I don't know if that's normal. But, you know, then all the family.
Like a deep bruise.
Huh?
Sounds like a deep bruise. I don't know.
It's deep. It's deep. And, you know what? Hey, I had all of my great family coming over. You know?
Oh, yeah. Family time.
We had a great time. Hey, look at here. Look who's here.
Joseph Ione from Boston, Mass.
About time. We've missed you too, Joe.
Yeah. If you're in the comments, what helps tremendously, I would ask this one favor. If you're in the comments, go ahead and say that you're in the comments. Ask questions. Participate. We want you to be a part of what we're doing here. That always makes it more exciting. So please comment. Jenny, college football started this weekend. Do you get into the college football situation?
I do.
Yeah.
Until I saw what transpired. I didn't even really realize what transpired until the next day. And then I saw it. And then I was like,
yeah.
And then I started getting texts, people running their mouth saying, you know, Clemson and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, hey.
Yeah. Well, what I'm actually excited about, love him or hate him, Deion Sanders and the Colorado Buffaloes. Mm-hmm. I think that's going to be an exciting story as the season progresses. I think it's going to shake things up. And with all these rule changes in the NCAA, I think it opens it up for change. We're not going to see this. We're going to see new things. I like new. Some people don't like change.
I know. I like new also. I mean, you know, but I get more. I am into football, college football, professional football when it's my team.
When it's your team.
Yeah. Otherwise, I'm kind of like,
Yeah. Or if you have big money on it, right?
Well, yeah, I did that, but, you know. I usually don't.
So this morning, I got to tell you what I did this morning. So me and David, we went, my brother David, Camden, our nephew, wanted us to go to Pancakes with Pals.
Oh.
So we went with him this morning, got over to Megan's house, my sister's house, about 6:30, picked him up, went to Bowling. Well, it's Shoaley Creek Elementary because Bowling Springs is growing so much, but that was so much fun.
Oh, that's so sweet. God, that is so sweet. I love that.
Yeah, we had a great time, took some pictures, but of course it took me back to school, right? What was it like to go to school? And so that's one of the things that I wanted to talk to our guest about today. You know, it's so funny when we think back to how things were and going into elementary school and then of course on into high school. Some people had a great time. Some people maybe not. Some people didn't. What was your school experience like, Jenny? Just in general.
I mean, you know, I was smart.
Yeah. Oh, no, I didn't know that. is that something that like must have tailed away or went away after a while, or how does
No,
that work?
it's almost like it compounded. It's like
Really?
you know
That's
what?
amazing.
It is. It's amazing.
Yeah.
But it was like I would say I was smart, but I wasn't exactly probably the coolest.
Did you get along with everybody?
I did.
Yeah.
Yep.
All sorts of different people. You could have sat at any lunch table.
No.
No?
Well, I could have sat down, but then I'd been like, imposter syndrome would have creeped. I'm like, I don't belong here.
Imposter syndrome.
I'm not a skater. I'm not that. I'm not this.
Yeah. Well, that makes me think of the other thing that kind of goes in with this in school and just in general at networking events, at Toastmasters, at on this podcast, social anxiety. You're right. Everybody's got their place where they get nervous. Yep. I always talk about the golf course. There's something about I'm terrible at golf. And anytime I get on a golf course, and I've seen you play golf, and so but anytime I get on a golf course, all these people, they've got the clothes, they've got the vibe. They're like, boom, boom, bing, bang. And I'm like, oh no.
I know. It makes me
Danny DeVito.
And Danny, you know what I did? I had to give him back to his rightful owner, Maggie, my daughter.
Really? You gave him back?
Well, it's hers.
Oh no, but see, you've got fans here that need.
I know. I need to pull them back out. And Joe, you're right. I did get along with most people. I was very kind, because I was one of those people that's like, oh, I would hate to be treated that way. So I was just a friend to everybody.
There you go. Well, that is very nice and kind of you, and I wouldn't expect anything less. Now you've got a question.
I do, because I want you to move into anything until I ask you a few questions.
Oh, you knew that I was getting ready to move into the guest.
You're like, and on that note, here we go. No.
I'm ready to rock and roll. I've got 2 guests today, Jenny. We have 2 guests. Go ahead.
Okay, listen.
All right, I'm ready.
I'm not even going to read this out until the end of the show, but I need you to give me a few. I don't know if you ever played Mad Libs as a kid.
No.
But, well, you're about to. I need an adjective.
Enormous.
All right. Give me a superlative.
A superlative is
like
extraordinary.
Okay. A noun.
Noun. Hippopotamus.
All right. An adjective.
Don't plant seeds or it'll grow.
I know. An adjective.
An adjective. Tall.
A noun.
Dog.
Another adjective and noun.
Oh my goodness.
Well, there's only so many words.
Long.
And a noun.
And a noun. Building.
Okay.
That was actually hard. When I'm taking a test, I get nervous. Like, I don't want any right or wrong answers. I just want to be.
There's not.
I just want to talk. No, but I have to say a noun. Imagine how wrong they would know I am if I wasn't able to name a noun or a verb.
You could literally name anything. A verb. Give me a verb.
A verb. Run.
Okay. A noun. Oh no, not another noun.
Zebra. Oh no, I just saw a zebra pop up.
Okay. How about give me another verb?
Another verb. Walk.
Another noun.
Why am I on these animals all of a sudden? A spoon. A spoon.
Oh, yes. Okay.
I had to get off the animals. Like, okay, now they don't have to breathe. They don't have to be.
I just need 6 more words. Give me an adjective.
An adjective. I don't know. Fast.
Oh, well, here's another adjective.
Something
just, like describe something.
I'm trying to.
Think about me like beautiful.
Beautiful. This is really starting this a lot.
Okay, I need a plural noun.
A plural noun. Fishes.
Oh, right.
Fish.
Hey, here's something easier. A city.
A city. Now we're talking. This is the sort of question that's easy. Pittsburgh.
Pittsburgh.
Yes, Pittsburgh.
You said Boston in honor of Joe. Okay, and then give me 2 nouns.
2 nouns. We're going to say fork.
Yeah.
And grass.
Okay. That's all I need.
That's all.
That's it.
Welcome to Atlanta, where the welcome to Atlanta, where the never mind. I can't do it. Tyler, what's up, man? Thank you for jumping
thanks
in.
for being here.
Joe, thanks for being here. Garrett, Joe, we need more people. We need more comments, but we've got 2 guests.
Yes, we do.
I've been watching this guy on LinkedIn for however long I've been on LinkedIn. Every time I come on there, he's got a post. He's done everything from skits to working out to motivation to speaking his mind to, of course, basic dad stuff.
Oh,
basic dad stuff.
Nothing basic about dad.
Here he comes, Matt Wells. Welcome.
Woo!
What's going on, guys?
Hey.
What's up, man? So we have talked. We talked just like 2 questions. The only time we've ever spoken before. But I've been seeing you on LinkedIn. It's so cool to connect with people that you see online and as close as we can get, right? I'm sure you've done that many times, right, Matt?
Oh, for sure. Absolutely. It's always cool to get those connections to go offline too and actually meet people in person, shake hands, be like, oh my goodness, like you're a real live person. You're not just some person, some face behind a screen. So it's always a blast. Absolutely.
Wow, you're a lot taller. Or somebody told me they're like, you're thinner than I thought. I was like, do I look like really fat on camera with my face? You know, it's just like you never know what to expect.
Now, I'll say we've got a few things in common. You're probably much, much stronger than I am, but her hair is somewhat, and the facial hair.
I was gonna say, I'm trying to match your hair game, man. I mean, you got a solid head of hair there. I got to try to live up to it while I'm on here with
you. That's awesome. So I want to talk and get to know Matt Wells, and then of course we've got another guest. Then we're going to play some games here, or whatever Jenny's going to have us go through. So jump through the punches. So one of the first things that I wanted to know, what does your wife think about your social media goings on? I mean, you do a lot with the kids, you're interacting with them a lot, but I thought to myself, I wonder how Matt's wife thinks about some of the things that he's doing.
It's a little bit of a bipolar perspective behind it, honestly, because not that she's bipolar, of course she's amazing, but there are days that she can appreciate it and she sees it and she's been a fan of it. But I think there's also a whole lot of the typical just eye roll moments, and rolling the eyes because it's this creation of a person who's the real me, but the world sees it as this. And for her, there's definitely a lot of, are you doing this for your stuff? Or are you doing this for us? Like, no, this is all for us. It always has been all for us, but the world gets a chance to see all of it. So, I mean, she definitely is a fan of a lot of what I do, but also rolls her eyes a lot what I do.
Well, that's what we do. I mean, we're like, oh, really? Seriously?
Yeah, exactly.
Like when people laugh at y'all, we're like, it's not that funny.
So how did you get into doing the social media? Where did it come to start becoming a creator and start trying some of these things that you're doing?
I mean, it definitely happened on LinkedIn. It was a very organic thing that just kind of slowly took root and then grew a little bit. And because of just me being very consistent about putting things out here and honestly just being insanely transparent and real and not really keeping much at all away from the masses, I think people just grew to find that very relatable. I'm speaking for other people and on their behalf, but I know that, when you're sharing literally pretty much everything about your life with the world, down to clips of me being on the toilet when the kids come into the bathroom, I'm like, get out. There's literally nothing that I haven't shared with the exception of like intimate details of my life. But it just, people go, you know what? This is funny because I see myself in what this guy is doing. Attach that to the fact that I do a lot of stuff that's just, like you said, I speak my mind. I'm pretty free and open, and I don't mind talking to what me is ultimately revolutionary truth. I'm not politically correct, and it doesn't surprisingly seem to have much of a negative impact in this world, even though it's a very politically correct and politically charged world. It's not been necessarily bad for me, but it started off it started off with just some silly creative videos, being humorous, throwing some things out there, trying to make people laugh. And then it just kind of snowballed from there over time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that people find that funny when you do relate to it. It's like, it's like we live it, we think it, you know, and then when somebody's like, we're like, oh God, everybody does that. You know what I mean? That kind of thing.
I mean, the best comedians are the ones that they take everyday situations that we all experience, but they have a gift for fine tuning it into some, 2 or 3 sentence line that's incredibly witty, and we all think it's hysterical because we go, yes, that's me, yeah. So
do you know how many times I'm scrolling and then I'm like, I got to get up, I'll run downstairs, I'm like, to my husband, I'm like, I need you to watch this because this is you. This is you. This right here is you, and this is exactly what I think of you.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if Jenny's had a chance to watch any of the Basic Dad stuff. So we need to kind of give her the evolution of where that came from and then what it looked like.
Absolutely. So the Basic Dad stuff, I'll give you the nutshell version of it. So it started off because I came across a guy on LinkedIn named Patrick McNamara that does a series called Basic Dude Stuff. He's an ex-Special Forces military aficionado, kind of a real awesome, badass kind of guy, pardon the word. That's like the way to describe. He literally has a podcast with that word in the podcast name. So but I saw it when he was doing, and honestly, just seeing his mannerisms and what he was doing, I was like, gosh, this reminds me a lot of myself. I like what he's doing. I'm a very machismo kind of guy, but I thought it was funny. So I thought, dad. So I reached out to the guy and I said, hey, would you mind if I did a spoof on what you're doing and called it Basic Dad Stuff? And he gave me the thumbs up, in the DMs on LinkedIn. So I did the first video, and right off the bat, it got a lot of engagement, a lot of reactions, a lot of laughter, a lot of not the great posts, but people that were engaging and saying, this is so funny. I really like that, whatever. And what started off as a one-time idea kind of just took root and grew and grew and grew into a weekly thing every single week. And I would say that large in part, what platform I have on LinkedIn is mostly due to the Basic Dad Stuff series. So Jenny, just so you know what it is, it's just me in everyday life. I'm not like creating or scripting out videos. I have no special effects. It's just me doing everyday things with my kids or in my, whatever. And then, holding the camera up and saying, you wiping your kid's butt, on the toilet, basic dad stuff, and looking at the camera. And of course, as I see Daniel do a lot here, I've also got the arched eyebrow thing, which he does a lot of as well.
I mean, it's like I'm looking at like a clone here. I mean, that eyebrow goes up, now you can, what's up, everybody?
Yeah. So that's really all it is just, what it really became is like a weekly video journal into my life with my family, because my kids are in them. My wife is every once in a while she's in them, but she's not all about the social media presence and being seen on camera. So she's very rarely popping into them, but sometimes she does.
And what's cool is that this is just as a mom thinking, it's cool because you're like documenting and chronicling this stuff for the future. You know what I mean? Like you always want to look back and say, what do I have of my kids on, but you have it all right there.
It's crazy because I've been doing it. I did take a break, about a 6-month break last year from doing it for a little while, but I've been doing it since 2020. And it's literally like a weekly video, and I upload all of them to YouTube. So I can literally go on to YouTube to our channel and I can watch my children grow up for 3 years. For people who've been around for a long time and have been connections of mine on LinkedIn, I have people who've literally watched my twins grow up from being infants to now they're 4 years old. And they're like, my gosh, look how big they're getting, because they've literally been along for the ride since the beginning. So it's cool.
I think it's awesome. Because as you kind of go, there's got to be obviously with 4 kids. I know you've got twin boys, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
4 kids, all fairly young. There's a lot going on, but as your week progresses, and I've seen you kind of let off some steam and frustration. I love those because I think that's as real as anything, right? You come in and things are chaotic, and it's like, hey, I've got this platform to kind of let off some steam. And I think you do that in a couple of different ways, because you've got that kind of, I can run through a wall, but you kind of let that go through your content. Is that fair to say?
That's absolutely fair to say. So I have been known to describe myself as a bit schizophrenic on LinkedIn, because people often talk about the fact that, you should hone in and focus on what your specialty is or what your niche is. That's what I was about
to ask you. I'm so glad you're saying this. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. And I feel like I have several different pockets of different niches that I just want to talk about. So one of them, the one that I definitely talk about the most, bar none, is fatherhood. And because fatherhood is just so monumentally important, especially, it always has been, but I feel like in today's world where we're growing up, where I feel like masculinity is under attack, and fatherhood is being under attack, and you're taking away from men. And there's, a quarter of the kids in the world are growing up in a fatherless home. There's just so many stats that will build on the case that fatherhood is detrimentally lacking, and we need to be better at that. So that's fatherhood's like probably the biggest pocket. I also, for a career, I sell printers and copiers. So I do content once in a while that is catered to and about copiers. And it's fun because there's nothing sexy about selling copy machines, guys. But so I've taken it upon myself to try to get as creative as I can and figure out, all right, how can I do content about copy machines and make it either informational or entertaining or funny, or whatever I can do. And I think I've done a pretty decent job of kind of carving out a type of content on here that you don't really see from anybody else when it comes to printers, copiers, that kind of technology. That's the second pocket. Third pocket has definitely become very much about freedom and liberty and the culture that we are living in today, and what we should do to stand up for what we believe in and fight for the liberties and freedoms that we've grown up with, that we have all been able to appreciate and thrive in, and not let those things be under attack and risk losing them. So that's become a big thing for me. And then the other thing is just regular, typical motivation type content and humorous content. So you've seen a bit of all of it.
You do, and I love it, man. I mean, you probably, it seems like you have a lot of different interests, and you kind of go where your energy is.
Yeah.
Is there one of those pockets that's your favorite, or?
I can answer that for him.
Yeah. Go ahead, Jenny. Take it away.
The father one.
For sure.
Yeah.
I mean, the fatherhood one has definitely become the one that I lean into the most, because it's the thing that I am definitely most passionate about. I mean, with 4 kids, I have a 12-year-old daughter, 7-year-old son, and 24-year-old boys.
Wow.
The majority of my life is being a dad. And, I try to put out there as often as I can for people who look to my content as some kind of motivation or inspiration, whatever. I accept that with all the humility in the world, because I'm every single bit as flawed as any other dad out there. I am a work in progress constantly. For every great thing you might see on LinkedIn, I'm also struggling behind the scenes I got to overcome different things like frustration and anger and impatience like anybody else does. So, so it's just, I create content about fatherhood as much for myself as I do for anybody else.
Yeah, no, I love that. Go ahead, Jenny.
I'm sorry, I have a question. It's just burning in my head.
If it's burning, you gotta let that burn. Let that burn go.
Is your predominant platform LinkedIn?
Yes.
Okay, because that's what I was wondering. Because way back, gosh, now since Daniel pulled me in and we started doing this, and I never really was on LinkedIn, and so I always looked at LinkedIn as just a very professional. Here is the new this and la 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 la.
Yeah.
And so I'm just wondering, it's like, so you just use that platform just to do all things, your business, your fatherhood, you know what I mean? That kind of thing.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's everything. I mean, I am on the other platforms. So I have an Instagram account. I have a TikTok account. Of course, I got a Facebook, which, primarily is used for family and sharing photos and stuff. But I have shared a lot of my video content that I create for LinkedIn. And I've actually taken those and put them on TikTok and Instagram and YouTube. That none of them have really taken off on those other platforms the way that LinkedIn did. I really can't attribute what the reason for that is. Mm-hmm. I feel like, honestly, if I'm being real, I think that LinkedIn it offers a better environment for fostering growth and for having that organic outreach and getting to know people than the other platforms do. So because of that, I've been able to communicate with people directly. Mm-hmm. I've done things. I've done other shows in the past on LinkedIn that have been pretty big and not big, but very well known and creatively done. And I can't do those kind of things on the other platforms. So that doesn't mean that doesn't negate from the fact that you should absolutely do those other platforms and try to broaden the horizons, and definitely don't put all your eggs in one basket, because I've seen people talk all the time that, hey, if you rely exclusively and solely on one platform, and like MySpace, suddenly that platform goes away, then oh crap, what am I left with? Now I don't have anything to fall back on. Whatever I built is just gone out of nowhere.
Well, I just like the fact that you're doing something different.
Yeah,
so that
definitely different.
Different on LinkedIn, because then people, it's like almost like a breath of fresh air when you see something that's funny. It's like, oh yeah, okay.
You get you do get the occasional naysayer in the comments that this isn't Facebook or whatever, and that's going to come. But those comments are so few and far between, and such an insanely small minority of the comments that I get. Most people are commenting and engaging with not a sentence, but a paragraph in the comments, because I definitely, one thing I aspire to constantly is to provide some kind of content that is very, very different than the typical boring stuff that you see on LinkedIn, because there's a whole lot of boring, redundant, regurgitated crap. Let's be real.
It is.
So so you've got great communication skills. You're great in front of the camera. You don't have I can't pick up on any anxiety like when you're doing any of the long form videos or any of that. Where did that come from? That's not, generally there's some social anxiety associated with that. So does it come from just doing it, or how did we get where we are now?
Were you nervous to start with?
So it's a bit multifaceted. I think there may have been a bit of discomfort in doing things early on, and over time, and just doing it over and over and over again, you grow to be more comfortable with it. But one thing, I've never really had an issue with public speaking or being in front of people. For whatever reason, it's not something I've ever really struggled with, even though I know that there's all these things that it's like most people's number one fear. They're more afraid of public speaking than they are of dying.
Yeah.
I can't wrap my brain around that, because, get up in front of people and just start talking and something's going to come out of you. But I know people do clam up. One story that I've shared on LinkedIn that I think is a pretty funny story, but it's a true story. And it's probably where I can, call it my origin story of public speaking, and me realizing that, there's nothing that can really go wrong here. And I'll give you the quickest version I can. So in college, I went to Florida State University. So, going old, you're talking about college football.
You know exactly who Deion Sanders is then.
Yep, that's right. Absolutely do. And we put a whooping on LSU this weekend too. So it was a great way to start our season.
No doubt. I believe they're coming back, bro.
You better believe it. But anyways, when I was at Florida State in my master's program in sports management, one of the classes was sports marketing, and we were assigned to do a presentation, and we had to take something out of sports and put together like a 20-minute presentation in front of our class. So I put together a presentation that was about sports agents and what they have to do to win clients and build those partnerships and then grow as a sport agent. I found a great clip in a movie called He Got Game, which was a Denzel Washington basketball movie back in the early 2000s. And there's the character in this movie's name is Jesus Shuttlesworth. He's the basketball player that the movie is about. Well, there's a scene in the movie where a sport agent comes in and is basically courting this athlete because he wants him to come underneath him. I want to be your agent. I want to be there for you. I want to be your guy. Mm-hmm. And it's a great scene. Well, immediately prior to that scene, this is the days of VHS, which, we know what that is. My kids go, what the heck? What is that? What's that, Dad? What's a Yeah. So I had the VHS of He Got Game. I put it right to the spot I needed. Well, immediately prior to that scene in the movie, there's a sex scene that takes place in a Ferris wheel. So I got the movie where I needed it to be, and I had my talk lined up, and there's a certain part of my presentation where I'm supposed to hit the play button on the VCR. So I go to it, I hit play, and the movie pops up on a sex scene in a Ferris wheel. And I'm like, oh my gosh, so I kind of panic. Like, this is my, a small classroom of 20 to 25 people. It's not like in an auditorium or anything, but still I kind of panic, but I go to fast forward it. And what wound up actually happening is the class started laughing. They knew it was an accident. The teacher was smiling about it. And if anything, it kind of lightened the air in the room, and people kind of dropped their shoulders a bit, because humor does that. Humor makes everything easier and better. And that, instead of getting me full of anxiety and getting me tightly wound, I just kind of like, oh my goodness, okay, what could go worse than showing a sex scene in a presentation? But if anything, it made everybody, kind of connect more with my presentation. They were laughing and they were more honed in on what I was talking about. So for me, that was kind of a red pill moment of going, this ain't so bad. Talking in public's not a big deal. And from there, it's just kind of been one thing after another. I'm in sales, so I'm constantly talking to people in public. I'm constantly, meeting people who have never met me before. So you got to get comfortable with it.
Yeah, I was going to ask you that. So a lot of the things you're doing, do you find that has helped you in your communication and working with the public in general? You've got a lot of, Ray Allen.
Yeah, that's Jesus Shuttlesworth, and he got game. He knows.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. That's America's sweetheart. He knows a lot of things.
Yeah, he does. He knows a lot of stuff.
But
he also is not politically correct ever.
Yeah.
Good. I like him already.
Yeah, y'all might have a good conversation as well. So, but I forgot my question.
I'm so sorry, Daniel. So sorry.
Yeah, good. Next time I'm talking, if you would just interrupt me so I'll forget everything. But to Matt's point, what we do when we do kind of screw up, when we do call it like it is, or whatever the case might be, it breaks the ice. It makes things so much easier.
Yep.
100%.
I mean, I keep thinking about how can we create a show where that's what's happening? Because if everybody's just being themselves and not worried about what's happening with the audience, that's when good content is created. Right, Matt?
You got to be as natural and real as you can be. And that's only going to benefit you in real life. Yeah. And prior to us going live, I kind of slowly hinted at the fact that a couple years ago or a few years ago, me and two of my buddies here on LinkedIn did a LinkedIn improv show. We called it the Improvables, like the Improvables, but the Improvables. That was Alex Sheridan and Jared Greer. And it was a live show we did weekly for a little while there. Those guys are both absolutely extraordinary human beings, amazing men, amazing fathers. They do such incredible things for people. Both of them, honestly, I've got a group text with the three of us, and I feel like I'm living inside of a mastermind because these guys are both entrepreneurs. I'm not an entrepreneur, but I get to be the fly on the wall and just watch these genius conversations between two guys. I'm just like chiming in like, wow, this is awesome. I throw in my dumb thoughts here and there, but same thing. When we did the LinkedIn live show, like you're saying, you got to learn real fast to laugh at yourself, go with it, be quick on your feet. And honestly, of the three of us, I was hands down the least adept, or least adept, at the right? I was the least proficient at being quick on my feet with humor and improv. So I can be a funny guy, but it's hard to be funny on the fly real quick. Yeah.
And I find that if I acknowledge and call myself out before anybody else, just me and Daniel were talking about this yesterday. It's like, oh, well, you can put people at ease immediately because I'm like, listen, I don't know how to do it either, and immediately because, I was in a situation last week and these young girls, and I thought they already knew everything. And they looked at me as the older person that knew it. And I was kind of like, you know what? I don't have a clue. Yeah. And immediately we were all like, whew,
Hey, we're all works in progress. We're all learning together,
Yep.
So
yes.
Yeah. Well, awesome. So what we're going to do now, we're going to bring on guest number 2. Matt, we'd love for you to stay with us if you can.
Yes.
Sure.
And we're going to bring James on. And if Matt's got a question, Matt, I want you to ask it. And then, Jenny, I'm going to turn it over to you, and we're going to play some games. So without further ado, James Aiken, welcome to Jenny, Winny, and the Average Dude.
What is going on? Thank y'all for having me.
Absolutely. So a little background on James and I. James is from Greenville, South Carolina, Jenny, Winny.
All right.
Yep. And we connected through LinkedIn. And he is the game changer, the GOAT of the recruiting game. Is that fair to say, James? I saw that comment. I said, he does know a lot about recruiting.
If you say it, it's got to be true. We just made it public record, so I'm willing to defend it. So I remember when we met for lunch. It's how long ago was that? Dude, it's been who knows how many years. It was at the Ham House. That's how long ago.
It was at the Ham House, right? Yeah. So if you're familiar with Greenville, that's no longer around. But I remember you kind of educated me on how recruiting works and kind of your niche within the recruiting game. It's a little different. Can you explain to us how that works?
Yeah, for sure. So actually, whenever we met, most of what I was doing was sales within like the construction materials, building materials world. We ended up rolling that up more recently with another firm that is multidisciplinary. So they do a lot of different stuff, mostly accounting and finance, but everybody on our team has their own little lane. You want to build out your little world, your little network. And so everybody kind of niches down in one way or another.
Yeah. Yeah. And now I know that you were on a podcast here not too long ago.
Yeah.
Is social media something that you have thought about leveraging, or do you leverage that in some way in your?
Yeah. So of course, I'm always hawking on LinkedIn, but as far as like making content, it's one of those things that it's a great idea and it's hard to execute. I mean, you have been one of the most consistent guys that I know when it comes to building that. Like, it's nuts.
I don't know if I'm building anything. I'm just consistently doing stuff, right?
Yeah, there you go.
I just got to do it.
But you're doing it.
Yeah, you're out there playing, you're out there building, you're creating stuff. I mean, it's admirable because kind of like what y'all were talking about before, it gets a little nervous sometimes being like, well, what do I even need to go over? Like what's boring? Like, what if I beat up too much? What is not interesting at all?
Yeah,
Like,
what if they don't want to hear this? What if they think it's stupid? I know.
Exactly. And you're like, all right, well, what should I really go over? And then, it becomes always having to create the new. Once you get one done, then it's like you're back in that same spot. All right, what am I doing next? So I've liked the idea about getting long form content out, chopping it up, and then being able to redistribute the smaller pieces. So I like that idea. So I've been working a little bit more on doing something like that. But I had, for a long while, I was doing videos all the time, anywhere I could get them on YouTube or whatever, just so I could, because I'm like, you can make a phone call and talk to one person, or you can do a video, even if it's just 5 people. It's like, hey, it's more than that one person. So like, I'd rather just slowly be able to build up an audience to leverage time a little bit better.
Yeah, absolutely. I've got to bring up this comment because it was so distracting. My Aunt Diane, what is Daniel building? 2 applications, and then I missed it. That threw me off my game a little bit. But
that is my mother.
I do want to talk about you mentioned something and it's been on my mind lately. So we talk about social anxiety, and essentially what social anxiety is, I'm being judged and I don't want you to judge me in a way that maybe I judge myself. Right.
Yeah.
And so I guess for everyone, I'd like to ask Matt this too. Some people may be more nervous in some situations and then maybe not so nervous in another situation. Is there certain things that you do that introduce that anxiety? And Matt, I'd like to know for you too. I mean, you've kind of already said that sometimes that judgment of what others are thinking, what's going on there?
James, when you said that, I felt it deeply. I mean, I felt it deep, because anytime I do anything and you put it up there, you're immediately checking it. And I'm like, oh God. Oh God.
Has it got enough likes? Yeah. My thing is, I guess what got me started on it and what I try to keep at the core is like, although it's antithetical to what I mentioned earlier, nobody cares. For the most part, everyone's doing their own thing. They're all like, they might catch you doing a video. They might catch you doing something a little wacky, but it's like a blip. It's like a blip in their existence or in their thoughts. It's not like they're like watching your video and they're like, man, this guy's so wacky. Let me send it to everyone and rag on him. Let me just let everyone know how stupid this guy is. Like, it just doesn't happen. It's not realistic.
No, it might be a great thing.
Exactly. Free publicity.
So insane, and they send it to all their friends. Isn't that what we're looking for? It's like authenticity. They're going to love you or hate you. It creates that polarity.
We talked about that. It's like, for my business, I started doing the reels, and it was the negative comments, and they shared it. That put me from like 700 followers to almost 19,000 followers.
Wow.
Yeah. Just because they were like,
Yeah.
First I was kind of like, oh my gosh, I'm taking it down. And then I was kind of like, oh, it's fine.
Well, it's like, what was it, Talladega Nights, where that little girl's like, I let my haters be my motivators.
Yeah. Yes.
It works.
That's good.
Absolutely. Let my haters be my motivators. And I think, I just said this, but I'll say it again. I think if we're putting things out there and we're being ourselves, then, I mean, the president of the United States, regardless of what party he's from, he's got half of the country that like him, half of the country that hate him, right? Mm-hmm. So I think the same is true for individuals. If we're brave enough to kind of be ourselves and overcome that social anxiety, we're going to expect some hate, because not everyone's going to like you if you're you, right?
That's true. The important part is just that you're stoking emotion to some degree, right? We don't want to stoke too much negative emotion, but the fact is, if you're saying something that generates a response at all to begin with, that's better than apathy. At least there's some activity or some controversy or back and forth.
And it's like when we go to bed, water. You know what? When we go to sleep or when we're laying down, we're thinking about, did they like it? They're not thinking, man, that James Aiken, that lip he did, woohoo!
Yeah. When you've got a crying baby, when you got all this other stuff, you got to finish that. That's the last thing.
They're not thinking about it. They watched it and it's done. Yeah.
So I've got to ask this. So Matt and I are both in sales. Jenny is in her own form of sales. She owns a boutique. People are coming in. She's got what is the skill set for a recruiter? Is it similar to sales? Is there sales involved in it? What makes a great recruiter?
Yeah, and I want to know what kind of, when y'all say recruiter, like what kind of recruiter?
What is recruiting? Yeah, give us the definition.
Yeah. So 2 pieces there. The short answer on what is a recruiter. A lot of people think it's like, it's a military, like you're recruiting the military. Sort of. It's more so companies need to find some kind of person to work within their business, and then they ask us to find them. And so I know I'm surrounded by salespeople here, so not to slam the table, but I think recruiting is the purest form of sales, one of the purest forms, because you're brokering, right? It's the only product that can unsell itself as well. If they're not interested in the role, they're not going to take it. So you really have to be able to make things work for both sides. So really, I think as a function, it's very like sales. You're finding your prospects, you're contacting your prospects, you're having dialogue with them, figuring out what they need next or what they're looking for. You're talking about your client. And then same on the flip side in business development. You're figuring out what companies need, where they need it, where their price range is, and then just trying to connect the two. So it's 100% sales. Maybe a sprinkle of marketing, but almost 100% sales.
Is it like you're having to double sales? Like what this person needs, and then I'm selling it to you to fill that. You see what I mean?
It's kind of like, if you look at realtors, it's kind of like if you were a buy and a sell side realtor.
Yep.
Like some people do specialize on one side. Some people only do candidates. Some people only do businesses. But for the most part, you're having a
agent
double side. Yeah.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And I like that approach. Matt, what do you think about kind of being the broker? Sometimes I don't like to show up with my company hat on and a big W on my shirt. I would prefer the kind of like mutual agreement between 2 parties, right? That's kind of sounds like what James alluding to. Do you agree with that, Matt?
Well, for sure. I mean, I've called on recruiting agencies before, so they got to use copy machines like anybody else does. So I've been in them. I've worked in them. I've had plenty of friends who were in the recruiting industry as well. So it makes people really good at the conversation piece. And like you said, that he said a hint of marketing. You could probably do more than a hint of marketing in that aspect. But for sure, I mean, I would say that recruiting, like you said, purist or not purist, either way, it's still by no stretch of imagination, is it not very, very, very intense sales? So you're talking to people, you got to sell the person, you got to sell the company to the person, you're selling both sides of it. So yeah, I mean, it's a very involved process. And to that point, a lot of you talking about putting the hat on, whatever, but what you can utilize LinkedIn or anything else for that matter is just not necessarily only being a part of the company affiliation, but being your own private brand as well. And by doing so, and by building a brand out of yourself, people are going to be more than likely to work with you because they don't just know your company, they know who you are. They like what you stand for. They like what you're talking about. And you know what? I'd like to work with this guy. And I think he could do a good job of getting me into a good position. He seems like he's got some great connections and a good network, and I trust him. So
that's what Daniel has done. I think the average dude he's always talked about that. When I was learning about LinkedIn, he's like, it's not about representing necessarily just your company. It's you. You know what I mean? It's like, it's Matt Wells. It's the average dude. So
100%.
Yeah, because it's a very high customer loyalty if you can look at it like that. Like It's like up there with financial advisors. Most people don't like, if their financial advisor moves somewhere else, they're not like, oh, well, I really like being with XYZ firm. Screw the guy that's been sitting down at my dinner table with me for years. They'll transfer. They'll go where, where they know that they can be confident in their representation.
That is the best example, James, honestly, because we had a banker on recently on the show, and I told him I feel like when he's changed banks, I'm like, okay, I shall go with you also.
Yeah, I am now at that bank. Yeah,
I am now
exactly.
your people. Yes.
Jenny, I've got one more question for James, and then I want to see some images and things like that. Do you have some things ready for us?
I do. I got you.
So the question for James, though, have you ever placed someone with the company and thought it was a great thing, and then they call you back, man, this place is terrible. What did you do to me?
Do you hate me?
It'd be aching from my earful. But it's been a while. It was back more so in like when I was doing manufacturing recruiting years and years ago, where you'll client will tell you one thing, they get in there, and then they're like, yo, we're working 70, 80-hour weeks. Like, I wasn't really trying to do this. And you're like, well, they told me it was Monday to Friday. Like, I don't really know what to tell you. You just kind of got to take the beating. That is another part of the brokering situation. You're taking the verbal assaults from both sides for sure.
Like you did.
Believe me and Matt, I see Matt shaking his head. I jump on many a grenade, believe you me.
that's our job, basically. It's like, bring everyone's emotional state down. Like, hey, let's just focus on the task at hand here. But
and I will say it kind of fits our skill sets, right? I mean, the person that jumps on the grenade is the person that's built to jump on the grenade in a certain kind of way. So, hey, that's job security. Nobody else.
That's for sure. Not many grenade jumpers. Out there, but,
All right. So we've got some images, I think, or something. Jenny's been working in the background. She's been in her creative laboratory. And I thought it would be fun to see what she's come up with. So take it away, Jenny Winny.
I will. Just because now, like I was saying to Daniel, these are just like modern day ink blots, I guess you would say. Images you've seen. I know you'll recognize them, but we're trying to see like what emotion or what feeling it elicits, or
does it bring up a story in your past? Does it bring up, so there's no right or wrong answer here. There's
no right or wrong answer. It's just like, hey, oh man, that makes me feel like back in not you, James, but he's like, when I was in the womb.
Much from them.
Back in the womb. Okay, so let's see here. Let me bring it up here. All right, here we go.
Is this a Spitfire? Is this
James, you first, then Matt, and then me and Jenny will give our 2 cents.
Easily one of my favorite games of all time. The most likely board game to be flipped. The most likely board game to have the banker bully against their own interest, stealing money from the bank. People that I remember when I was a kid having the Velcro wallet and wanting to put all the Monopoly money in my wallet. From my wallet. This is like one of my favorite pastimes, actually. I don't even think about jail at all. I think about the game.
That's what we're saying.
One of my favorite games.
Yeah. What do you think about, Matt, when you
man. So I see that card and my mind definitely goes in multiple directions, but I would say that what first came to mind is we just had Labor Day weekend and I went to my grandfather's lake house in Alabama, and I saw some family there that visits from that same area. And my Aunt Vicky, wish you could see this and heard me talking about her, but my Aunt Vicky, you just had Aunt Vicky a little bit ago, I think you said, Daniel, but my Aunt Vicky, growing up going to lake house, she loved playing Monopoly, and she was ferocious in her tactics. Even if it was with nieces and nephews or her own children, she was brutal. She took no prisoners, man. So this is going to jail. There was no jail. There were no prisoners. She played mean and she played to win in Monopoly. So this last weekend I was there, and she kept on insisting that she wanted to play Monopoly. Let's play Monopoly and that. But I've got 4 kids that are, so young. So there's just, Monopoly requires an investment of time, and we just didn't have that kind of time to sit down and play a game of Monopoly. But she kept begging for it because she loves it so much, and I grew up playing it with her when I went to the lake house.
Absolutely. I love this one. This one actually reminds me of going to jail.
It reminds me of that weekend.
It reminds us all of different things, but that's a great ink blot there, Jenny. I love that. What else do you have for us?
Okay. Let's see here. Here's Sierra. Okay, here we go.
Sierra, hey, my son loved Monopoly. Just to piggyback that, and for the long term. And my son was good. So
hey,
he's competitive.
I love Sierra's comment because what she just said there. I didn't catch my dad and being tortured for hours having to play. So, but for Sierra, here's a memory. Here's a memory of her dad that she can talk about, whether it's torture or whatever. But she will always see Monopoly and think of her dad, and I love that. That's some basic dad stuff, cool. So.
And usually when I see this, I know it makes me think there's going to be somebody's going to be crying.
Yeah. Or boards are getting flipped over and cars and pieces going flying everywhere. So
okay,
we would have situations where we would cut backroom deals where we'd say, hey, I'll give you this property if you don't tax me if I hit the yellows. And then it'd be like everyone would say, oh, you can't do that. You can't do that. I'm like, there's no rules. There's no rules. Free enterprise.
You learn that to win, you needed alliances. It's true.
Yeah.
Okay. This is going to I'm going to do more of a traditional kind of thingy.
Okay.
Oh boy.
Whoa. Okay. All right. Who wants to take that one first?
I'll go for it. So I saw that, and that's definitely an ink blot if there ever was one, because you can see different things in that picture. But I immediately saw the volcano, and before I saw the head. Then I saw the head, and to me, that just made me think of the fact that we can be so quick to just spout off of our mind without thinking about what we're saying sometimes. And I know for me personally, I did a post and a sermon, if you will, about this a while back, about the fact that we can just unload and dump so much garbage out of our heads into our kids sometimes without really thinking about what we're saying out of just a quick knee-jerk emotional reaction or something. And we got to be very good about knowing how to put the lid on that and, mute it a little bit and think about what we're saying. Because the tongue is a viper. The tongue can be very dangerous, and our mind's got plenty of venom inside of it that we can spew. So
I like that.
That's really good. I don't know where my mind was.
Yeah. I wasn't thinking deep enough. I was thinking Mount Vesuvius and Pompeii. That's where my mind went.
Really?
The old story, well, I guess it's not a story as much as it's history, but
fascinating history too.
Yeah.
My mind went to not controlling anger. Like we all have that kind of this, when are we going to erupt, and kind of in that similar vein that Matt said.
And my mind did not even remotely go towards anger.
What were you thinking there?
I don't even know now, because it's like everybody says.
You don't know what you were thinking. Now don't let.
No, I do know what I was thinking, and there's no wrong answers.
So,
but my mind was just thinking how my mind is always so full of things that are just sprouting off constantly. Like I can't control all the different thoughts. That was just me.
Oh man, I get that.
Yeah.
That's ADD kicking in. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, James. Yeah, that is what I was going for. I just didn't want to say it out loud.
I like that.
Okay,
Everybody's got a different perspective, and it makes them think about different things. I love it. Mm-hmm.
Okay, here we go, y'all. Let's see. I'm looking at my notes because I can pick and choose as I like. Here we go. Let's do this one. All right. What does this feeling? What does this?
Oh.
What is that?
That's your rear view.
Yeah, you got to back up a bit to see it. Actually, like, wait, what am I looking at here? So there it is.
Okay, what's the first thought? Who wants that one?
Yeah, I'm pleading the fifth. I'm not letting anything slip here. We're gonna pretend.
Wait a minute. Do I need to go back to the go to jail card?
yeah, I think that might be the right one.
I see a theme developing here. Yeah. So
I think you looked into my background a little too much before starting this show. I think we're getting to something here.
I know, but I'm just thinking about that feeling. You know what I mean? It's just like, yes, right here.
There's nothing like it. Like, I think that's the only adult version of like when you're a kid and you get caught doing something and you get that feeling in your gut. Like, you never ever feel that again as an adult until this situation. You're like,
you were so right.
What exactly?
Yeah.
what have I
Yeah.
done this time?
It's that instant sinking. Ugh.
Matt,
Yeah.
do you talk yourself out of tickets? If you get pulled over, do you get a ticket or do you talk your way out?
So I would be lying if I said that I did not have my fair share of speeding tickets throughout life. My very first one that my mom actually talked the police officer out of was on the way home from getting my driver's license.
Oh, nice.
So she drove with me to get my license. I drove home, of course, and I got pulled over literally about 150, 200 yards down the road from my neighborhood because it was one of those roads, like a 30-mile-an-hour speed limit. And the cop was sitting right in front of our neighborhood. And I came over a railroad track, and he was on the other side of the railroad track, and he pulled me over right in front of the neighborhood. And my mom actually talked him out of the ticket for me because it was my first time driving with a license. And
Oh,
yeah.
man. Well, that was cool of mom to do.
That was
Mom
really
was,
cool.
yeah, mom was a big savior that day for sure. Nothing like a ticket on the way home from the license, that's for sure.
Hey, and I have to throw it out to my parents here because my mom says it reminds my dad when he was 16 because he did go to jail until his dad came.
Yeah.
Yeesh.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's unfortunate.
I was one of the last few times I got pulled over. It was actually downtown Greer, and it was late at night, and I almost never get pulled over, so I was like amazed that I got pulled over. And it's nighttime. We pull over. The guy comes up to the window, and he's asking me all these questions, or whatever. And I remember him asking me about, license registration and all that. So I'm just like, all right, I'll pop over, reach in my glove box. I think I did it a little bit too quick. I think I spooked him a little bit.
Oh,
no.
He had the gun and the light out because I didn't even know what he was doing until I saw the light on my hand.
Oh, wow.
Like, yeah, I probably shouldn't be so herky jerky here.
Yeah.
Movements. Yeah, and it was like a light. It was like a headlight was out or something. It was something that,
You're like, I'm reaching for my gun.
Yeah, and I was like, holy crap. I was like, I'm sorry. I was like, I did not think about that at all. I'm like, I'm just trying to get you my stuff here.
Oh,
yeah, I always keep them make sure I have my insurance, my registration, and my license. It's like, bam, it's all there. It's all
right there,
ready to go because you don't want any extra stuff.
That's what my dad always told me having that on the whatever folds down, that thing, and then having your keys on the top of the dash.
Yes.
Like he's just like, have your hands up, keys on the dash, just completely submit, basically. He's a military guy, so he was like, just completely submit. Don't fight him at all. Say yes, sir, no, sir. That's all.
Absolutely. You got to give it all you got. And I do remember, this is my mom talking. She goes, Daniel, remember me talking my way out of a ticket going to Gatlinburg? Absolutely. She said later on, my friend said it sounded like him talking his way out of getting a whooping from. So, Jenny, we got time for one more.
Okay.
Oh yeah. Now I love to see where the minds go here. These are great images. I love it. James.
Well, it's just a domino effect, right? Which reminds me of the butterfly effect, because it's like, versus this, it's not compounding, but it reminds me just one action leads to the next. What do they call it? The Newton's laws of physics, I imagine, maybe. Yeah. So it's like, one thing can, doing A can make D happen. So
right, absolutely, and somehow they're all connected. Matt, what about you?
It reminds me of a mission trip I went on back in college. I went with a group of friends to a small island not in Antigua, it was in the Bahamas, a little place called Pelican Point in the Bahamas, very, very impoverished area. And they, we did a sports camp for young kids down there. And the people in that small community, probably just not those islands in general, they love dominoes. And that's one way that we connected with those people, was to go sit down in their little, very small shacks of homes and sit around the table and play dominoes with them for hours. They love playing dominoes.
Isn't that interesting? That's so cool, because you have one image and we have two folks here and we're both all kind of in sales, but hey, you see different things. I love the story of taking our minds to something else. So we got time for one more. I'm sorry, I'm enjoying this.
You lied then, Daniel. Okay, let me see here. Okay, this it's hard to choose which one's going to be one, but okay, let's do that.
Oh yeah. Oh, I know where that goes. I know where I went. scared to death climbing up that ladder. I'm sorry. I was always scared to death of climbing up that. I remember Camp Croft. There's a little place called Camp Croft, and I was always the youngest. So my cousins, like Jenny's much, much older than me. I don't know if you guys knew that.
Yeah.
But I was always the youngest. And the last one to learn how to swim. But we would go to Camp Croft, and that high dive, it seemed huge.
Huge.
I thought it was like, 40 feet in the air, but it wasn't.
But you know what? It kind of makes me think too, like, Matt, you said how you don't get, it's kind of like getting up on that high dive and everybody's watching you and then you might have to climb back down. You know what I mean? But that's what it makes me, putting yourself out there to be exposed. Oh, this is funny, y'all. Look at this. Yeah. Rodney Dangerfield back to school. And then look, Joe said back to school.
Joe and Diane, 2 peas in the pod, let me tell you.
Yeah. Were you ever afraid of stuff like this, though? Just real quick, James.
Oh, yeah, of course. I mean, I remember going into some indoor pool at one point in time where they had like the diving team, and they had 3 different boards. One that was a little bit shorter, and then high, even higher. And I remember trying to work my way up to the highest one, and then when you're up there, it seems like the diving board's a lot springier than it looks.
Yeah, it's a big one.
Yeah, and then I just remember like when you jump off. You're a kid. I mean, trying to do a cannonball, but it was like you couldn't even keep the cannonball. It was like you're going down so fast. It's hard to even just stay just protected, and you're just like flying. I don't know. It felt like you were in the air for 10 seconds versus and you're just like ripping straight downwards. Yeah, I actually haven't gone off a high dive in a while. I might have to bring that back to
I know.
Yeah, that's kind of what I would. For me, it kind of makes me sad, if I'm being honest, because you don't see diving boards in pools anymore. We live in a world that's so litigation and lawsuit heavy and all that stuff that all the community pools. I mean, now they have water slides. If they have anything, they have a water slide. But the days of diving boards are way far back in our rearview mirrors, man. I miss diving boards. You
know what? You're right. Now that you say it, you're absolutely right. I did not think about that. And that was like the highlight. That was the challenge of the summer, I
loved going on the diving board. And there was always a long line of kids to get on the diving board too. I'm even in home, residential neighborhood pools, people who build their own pools. I don't know if is there a law against it, but you don't ever go to someone's house who has a diving board anymore because I guess they can't get home insurance with a diving board because it's too much of a risk or liability. So,
Matt, were you a somersault guy, a backflip guy? I'd imagine you're pretty athletic. Were you pulling some trickery on these diving boards?
Some trickery.
I was a do whatever stupid thing I could get away with to make somebody laugh guy. So it resulted in plenty of pink bellies and back busters for sure.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Now, have y'all ever done anything like cliff diving or extreme sports of any kind?
Hell no.
Not extreme sports. So not to go back to the same thing, but where I went this last weekend with my family, Lake Martin, there is on the far end of the lake, several miles from where my grandfather's lake house is, there is a cliff called Chimney Rock. And we haven't had a boat for several years, but we used to have a boat up there that we'd use and we'd drive, whatever. We'd go to Chimney Rock. And I did jump off a Chimney Rock a few times in my life, which I don't know exactly how high it is, but it is several stories high. And every time I got up there, you look down, and just like Jane was saying about the springing, when you're looking down, it's a lot higher than when it is when you're looking up at it from the bottom. So, I've done that a handful of times, but nothing beyond that.
But Chimney Rock, where are you located, Matt?
Lake Martin, Alabama is where I'm talking about. So it's about an hour south of Birmingham, which, by the way, I should have said at the very beginning, but talking to the two of you, Jenny and Daniel, it almost feels like I'm at home with family because a lot of my family's from Alabama and Mississippi, and you guys talk the same way they talk. So you do. Now you're South Carolina, but the accent is the same. So I feel like I'm around my cousins.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, everybody's just comment, because when you said Chimney Rock, I know that James and Daniel, we all went to Chimney Rock. See, we have a local Chimney Rock.
Okay.
Yeah. When you said that, I thought, oh my gosh.
Now,
if you jumped off of that, you're alive? It's a miracle.
People have actually died jumping off the one I'm talking about. It's happened. I don't know how many people have, but I know it's happened. So
I'll believe it.
Yeah. Well,
doing that and then also doing the rope, because I always get like freaked out that just my brain's going to shut off and I won't let go of the rope in time. And like when you get out there and you're swinging out and you feel it start to slow down, and you have like no choice. You're like, I have to drop. I have to drop or I'm going back.
Yeah.
Hey, Mom remembered your Aunt Vicky. That was your extreme sports, playing with Aunt Vicky Monopoly. Is that
Yeah, there you go.
And Diane's on fire today. I love it.
Yes.
I like that. So, hey, thank you guys for joining. I knew when I had you two coming on, I said, this is going to be a lot of fun. You did not disappoint. Gina and Winny did not disappoint with the ink blots. That was a lot of fun. So thanks for all the comments, and we'll see you next week.
All right. Thanks, guys.
See y'all.
Yeah.